My name is Emily Carter, but everyone at work calls me Em, and I've always thought of myself as someone who could see the world clearly, who could read people like an open book. I'm 24, living in a small apartment in the city, with my cat, Miso, for company. I work as a freelance graphic designer, which keeps me busy enough to avoid thinking too much about my love life, or so I told myself. It all started with Ryan. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my calm in every storm, the person who made me believe that love didn't have to be complicated, that it could feel like home. We met in college, randomly paired for a group project in digital media. He had this quiet confidence, the kind that didn't need to show off, and I was instantly drawn to it. By the third coffee date, I knew he was different. By the third month, I was falling, hard. But as is often the case with anything that feels perfect, there was one problem. My sister, Sophia. Sophia is 3 years older than me, with this kind of magnetic charm that people either love or fear. She's beautiful in that effortless way, the type of person who walks into a room and demands attention without trying. I admired her when I was younger. Well, I admired and feared her in equal measure. But over the last few years, I'd started to notice something darker beneath her charm. There was a streak of possessiveness in her, especially when it came to people she decided were hers in some unspoken way. The tension began the day Ryan and I made our relationship official. Sophia came over to my apartment unannounced. As usual, just to hang out, she said. But the moment she walked in, she had that look, the one that made me question everything. Her eyes lingered on Ryan in a way that made my stomach twist, but I told myself I was being paranoid. "Hey," she said, leaning against my kitchen counter, a sly smile playing on her lips. "So, you're serious about him now?" I nodded, trying to ignore the cold, prickling feeling running down my spine. "Yeah, we've been together for a few months now. Things are good." Sophia's eyes didn't move away from him. Instead, they glimmered with a strange mix of curiosity and calculation. "Good," she repeated slowly. "I hope you're making the right choice, Em." That line, casual as it sounded, carried a weight I couldn't place. I laughed nervously and changed the subject, hoping I was just imagining things. At first, it was little things, comments she would drop in passing that didn't make sense, little jabs at Ryan's habits or our relationship. Once she texted me, "Are you sure he's worth it? I mean, I'd be careful if I were you." She never said why, and when I asked, she brushed it off with a shrug and a playful smirk. But the creeping unease didn't stop there. Every time Ryan came around, Sophia would coincidentally appear. She started asking to join our outings, to help with projects Ryan and I were working on together. At first, I laughed it off. I'd grown up with Sophia barging into my life, controlling my space, and I assumed this was just her usual theatrics. Then came the first real red flag, one I couldn't ignore. A text from Ryan, sent late one night, confused and quiet. "Emily, Sophia called me tonight. She sounded different. She said some things about us. Are you okay?" I froze. My heart raced as I read the message over and over. I asked him to explain, and he told me that Sophia had called him out of concern for me. She didn't want me to get hurt, she said. But she kept mentioning things about other options, about people who might be better for me, about how she knew him in ways I didn't. The more he explained, the more the pit in my stomach grew. There was something off, something calculated. At this point, I started paying closer attention to her behavior. I began to notice the subtle things, the way she smiled at Ryan when I wasn't looking, the way she'd brush against him casually, the way she found reasons to get between us in the smallest moments. At first, I told myself it was all in my head, paranoia fueled by my love for Ryan and my frustration with Sophia's control over everything. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sophia's charm wasn't innocent. It was a weapon. One evening, Ryan and I planned a quiet night in. We were watching an old movie, cuddled up on the couch, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Ryan got up to answer it. My heart sank when I saw Sophia standing there, smiling like the sun had just risen for her. "Hey," she said cheerfully, holding a bottle of wine. "Thought I'd drop by. Don't mind me." Ryan looked confused. Hi, Sophia. We were just— Relax," she interrupted, stepping in before he could finish. "I just thought I'd hang out. You know, sisters." Something about— Her tone made my stomach twist. I forced a smile, trying to mask the warning bells screaming in my head. That night, she stayed until late, asking questions, making jokes, leaning in closer to Ryan than I was comfortable with, as if she was testing the waters, pushing boundaries just to see how far she could go. I went to bed that night with a sense of dread I hadn't felt since childhood. Something inside me whispered that Sophia was no longer the sister I thought I knew. Something had shifted, and it was terrifying. I confronted her the next day, trying to be calm. "Soph, I need you to respect my relationship. Ryan and I are serious, and I need you to back off." Her laugh was soft but cold. "Oh, Em, you know I love you. I just want what's best for you." But her eyes told a different story. There was a hunger there, one I couldn't ignore. She was jealous, yes, but it was deeper than that. Something possessive, something dangerous. And that's when I realized the truth. Sophia wasn't just meddling. She had her own reasons, and those reasons were about to destroy everything I had with Ryan. I didn't know it yet, but she had already begun her silent campaign, planting seeds of doubt, weaving lies, manipulating him in ways I couldn't see. And by the time I realized what was happening, it might already be too late. But what happened next left me speechless. The days that followed were strange. At first, it was little things I almost overlooked. Ryan would mention something Sophia said in passing, and I would feel a chill run down my spine. She had this uncanny way of making her words sound harmless, while planting tiny doubts that burrowed into your mind. One afternoon, Ryan and I went to a cafe near our apartment. I thought it would be a quiet break from the tension, a chance to just be us again. But as we sat down, sipping our coffees, I noticed Sophia's car parked across the street. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she was running errands. Maybe it was coincidence. But the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. A week later, it happened again. Twice. She started showing up wherever Ryan and I went, always by coincidence, always smiling like the sun had nothing but warmth in her heart. Ryan noticed too, but he laughed it off, thinking I was overreacting. I wasn't overreacting. I could see it in the way she looked at him, the subtle way she leaned closer when he spoke, the little touches that seemed accidental but felt deliberate. Then came the texts. I remember the first one vividly because it was the beginning of the unraveling. "Em, I just wanted to say, I hope Ryan is treating you right. Some people aren't who they seem. Don't get hurt." At first I laughed. Typical Sophia, dramatic as ever. But then Ryan showed me a message she had sent him. "I just don't think Em deserves someone like you. You're young, naive. Are you sure you know what love is?" I froze. That line cut through me like a knife. I confronted Ryan immediately. "Did she say that?" I asked, heart pounding. He looked down, hesitant. "Yeah, but I didn't think she meant it in a bad way. It sounded protective." Protective? That was the word he used? I wanted to scream. The truth was obvious, even if he couldn't see it yet. Sophia was undermining me, quietly, relentlessly, and I had no idea how deep it went. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. I started noticing other changes, small, almost imperceptible. but enough to make my skin crawl. Ryan seemed more distracted when we were together. He'd receive late-night texts, disappear for hours, and when I asked, he'd brush it off with a shrug, a smile, a promise that I was imagining things. But I wasn't imagining things. Sophia began inviting Ryan to sibling outings, suggesting they grab coffee or lunch alone, claiming it was just casual. I remember the first time he agreed. I had been working on a project at home, and when he didn't answer my calls, I started worrying. By the time he returned, he looked uneasy. "What happened?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Sophia had invited him to a gallery showing, he explained, something about an art exhibit she thought he'd like. I didn't like it, not one bit. I asked why he hadn't told me beforehand, and he said it had slipped his mind. But the truth was, Sophia had carefully orchestrated these little encounters, isolating him from me in ways I hadn't noticed before. The subtlety of her manipulation was brilliant and terrifying. She never said anything overtly wrong. She just whispered doubts, nudged him in certain directions, smiled at him in ways I couldn't match. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, it started working. One evening, after a particularly tense week, Ryan came home looking troubled. His usual warmth was clouded, replaced by hesitation, almost fear. We need to talk," he said, sitting down across from me. My stomach dropped. "What is it?" He looked at me, searching my eyes as if he were afraid to speak. "It's Sophia. I don't know what she's doing, but I can't tell if she's being honest or I feel confused around her." I wanted to scream, to tell him the truth, but I also knew that if I reacted too strongly, it would confirm Sophia's influence. So, I stayed calm. "Confused how?" Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "She says things that make me doubt myself. She's been there when you weren't, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I can't trust my own thoughts around her." My chest tightened. This was exactly what I had feared. Sophia wasn't just meddling. She was systematically turning him against me, and it was working. I tried to confront Sophia directly. I told her sternly that she needed to stop. "Soph, enough. You're interfering in my life, in my relationship. Stop. This isn't a game." She tilted her head, pretending innocence, that infuriating smile never leaving her lips. I'm just looking out for you. I don't want you to get hurt. I thought you'd thank me one day." I wanted to hit her. I wanted to tear that smug smile off her face. But I knew in that moment that nothing I said would reach her. She was calculating, patient, and terrifyingly clever. Every word, every gesture was part of a plan I couldn't yet fully understand. The first real fight between Ryan and me happened a week later. I remember the night vividly. We had planned a quiet dinner at my apartment. Sophia had, coincidentally, called Ryan just before he left work, asking if she could drop something by. He didn't tell me. When he arrived, he looked flustered, guilty, I noticed immediately. "Ryan, what's going on?" I asked. He hesitated, then blurted out, "Sophia, she told me something about us. I don't know what to believe anymore." My heart sank. "What did she tell you?" I can't remember exactly, but it made me doubt us." I froze. She had already poisoned him, and I hadn't seen it coming. The subtlety of her manipulation was almost impossible to fight. My own sister was dismantling my relationship piece by piece, and Ryan, the person I loved most, was caught in the middle, too confused and too polite to confront the truth. That night, I cried myself to sleep on the couch, miso curled against, my chest feeling like my world was quietly collapsing. And in the silence, a terrible thought began to form. This wasn't just jealousy or meddling. Sophia wasn't just interfering, she was strategically destroying everything I had, and I didn't yet know why. The next morning, I woke to another text from her, you might want to watch your back. People aren't always what they seem. Even Ryan. And in that moment, I realized something horrifying. She wasn't going to stop. She had already begun, and if I didn't act soon, she would succeed. But what she did next was something I never could have predicted. After that morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was slipping through my fingers. Ryan was distant, quieter than usual, and I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes every time Sophia's name came up. She had become this silent predator in our lives, and I felt powerless to stop her. Every small action she took seemed to pull him further away, like a puppeteer tugging strings I couldn't see. It started with casual lies. Ryan would tell me things Sophia had said that sounded innocent, almost funny, and I'd try to laugh them off. She's just joking, I told myself. But the jokes always carried a hidden edge, a subtle undermining of my relationship. She said you didn't seem that happy lately, Ryan said one evening, voice hesitant, avoiding my eyes. Do you think maybe she's right? I froze. Every muscle in my body went rigid. My own sister was planting doubts in my boyfriend's mind, and he didn't even realize it. I wanted to scream at him, explain, warn him, but I knew it wouldn't matter. Sophia's manipulations were carefully layered. If I reacted emotionally, she would twist it, make me look unstable. And then came the gaslighting. Ryan began questioning his memory. Small things I knew had happened. But Sophia had twisted the narrative in her favor. Did we really say that? He asked one night, regarding a conversation we had about moving in together. I remembered it perfectly. He remembered it differently. And I realized with a sinking heart that Sophia had been whispering her version of events in his ear whenever I wasn't around. I tried to confront him gently. Ryan, I remember what we agreed on. I'm not making this up. He sighed, running a hand over his face. I know, Em. I don't know. Sophia made me second-guess myself. Second-guess. That word echoed in my mind like a warning bell. She was destroying our foundation piece by piece, and I couldn't reach him. One evening, I followed her, just to see what she was doing. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched from across the street as she met Ryan for coffee. I wanted to confront her, to yell, to throw myself between them, but I stayed hidden, terrified and furious at the same time. When Ryan left, he seemed tense, distracted. She had done something, said something, and I could see the effect already. I wanted to run after him, beg him to remember the truth. But I didn't know what the truth even looked like anymore. Then came the rumors. Little things she started, spreading, whispered to mutual friends and colleagues, painting me as controlling, jealous, irrational. Ryan began hearing snippets. She doesn't want me to have any friends, someone mentioned casually to him, omitting that it was Sophia who had framed it that way. Ryan didn't know what to think. He began withdrawing from me, unsure if he was with the right person, unsure if I was capable of being the partner he deserved. Every time I tried to reassure him, he hesitated, letting the seed Sophia planted grow roots. I remember one night vividly. I had waited up for him, ready to talk, to fix things. He came in, silent, eyes downcast. Ryan, please just tell me what's happening, I said, my voice trembling. He looked at me with a sadness I couldn't bear. I don't know if I can trust myself anymore, or maybe I can't trust you. I keep thinking about what Sophia said. Maybe I've been blind. Maybe I don't know what's real. It was like a punch to the gut. My own sister had turned my boyfriend against me so subtly, so thoroughly, that he now doubted everything, even me. I wanted to explode. I wanted to confront Sophia, demand answers, fight her like I had never fought anyone in my life. But I couldn't. She was always 3 steps ahead, always watching, always smiling in that terrifying way that made my blood run cold. So I watched, and I waited, and I tried to hold on to Ryan while Sophia slowly poisoned every interaction, every memory we had built together. The escalation continued for weeks. Ryan began avoiding plans, canceling dates, making excuses I knew weren't true. And every time Sophia was there, always around, always smiling, always whispering her subtle lies, her dangerous charm working like a virus in the background. The first time he outright questioned me, I felt my heart shatter. I don't know if I can believe you anymore, he said, voice low, eyes filled with confusion. I keep remembering what Sophia said, and I just don't know. I stared at him, silent, because words failed me. How could I explain that? My own sister was actively destroying us? That she was lying, manipulating, scheming, without a hint of remorse? I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I couldn't. Any outward display of emotion would have only played into her hands. I started, keeping a journal, writing down every interaction, every conversation, every manipulation. If nothing else, I could at least have proof for myself, evidence of the war she was waging in my personal life. But even as I wrote, I felt powerless. Ryan's love for me was slipping through my fingers like sand, and Sophia was winning. And then came the betrayal that cut deeper than anything before. It was a casual Thursday afternoon when I got a text from a friend I trusted. Hey, I don't know if you heard, but Sophia and Ryan were seen at the mall, together, alone. I dropped my phone. My stomach turned to ice. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or storm out the door. I had trusted Ryan. I had believed in us. And now, I was left with a terrible uncertainty, a gnawing fear that my sister had crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I tried calling Ryan immediately, but he didn't answer. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. When he finally called back, I forced myself to sound calm, though my heart was pounding like a drum. Where were you? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. Sophia, she needed help with something, and I went along. I swear, nothing happened. You have to trust me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted so badly to trust him. But a part of me, a large, terrifying part, knew it didn't matter. Sophia had engineered this moment perfectly. Even if nothing had happened, the doubt, the fear, the mistrust, it was already planted. And once it's planted, there's no going back. I realized then that this wasn't just a battle for Ryan's affection. It was a war for reality itself, and my sister was winning, one calculated move at a time. And I knew, with a sinking heart, that if I didn't fight back soon, I would lose everything. But I had no idea how deep her plans went, or how far she was willing to go to claim the one thing she couldn't have. It happened on a rainy evening that I'll never forget. I had spent the entire day at work, my mind a whirlwind of anxiety and exhaustion. Every interaction with Ryan felt strained. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched, expecting a text from Sophia twisting reality again. By the time I got home, the apartment was eerily quiet. Ryan wasn't there, and neither was Miso. My heart raced. I called him, texted him, left messages I knew he might not even see. And then I saw a note on the kitchen counter. Emily, I think we need some space. Sophia's right. Maybe we need to rethink things. Ryan. The paper slipped from my hands, and I sank to the floor, staring at the words like they had burned into the wood. Everything I had believed in, everything I had trusted, crumbled in an instant. I wanted to scream, to call him, to beg, him to remember us. But I couldn't even process the raw pain flooding through me. Then I saw her, The note was in her handwriting. Sophia had written it herself, a cruel, meticulous act of sabotage. Every step she had taken, every whispered word, every casual concern had been leading to this moment. The moment she destroyed the one person who made me feel safe. I wanted to confront her immediately, to demand answers, to rage against her for everything. But I knew better. She thrived on confrontation. She fed off emotional reactions, twisting them into her favor. I had to be careful. I had to think. And then came the call that broke me completely. My best friend, someone I trusted more than anyone, called to tell me that Sophia and Ryan had been seen together, not just at the mall, not just in innocent settings, but in ways that left no room for doubt. Holding hands, whispering, laughing like they shared secrets I wasn't allowed to know. My world tilted on its axis. I felt like I had been shoved into darkness without warning. Everything Ryan and I had built, the late-night conversations, the quiet moments of comfort, the laughter we shared, had been stolen, manipulated, and twisted by the one person who should have protected me. I confronted Ryan that night. My voice was trembling, my body shaking with rage and heartbreak. "Ryan, what is going on? Are you—" I couldn't finish the sentence. The words felt too heavy, too sharp. He looked at me with a pained expression, something I had never seen before. "Emily, it's not what you think. Sophia, I don't know how it happened. I was confused. I didn't mean to." But his words were meaningless. They had no power against the weight of the evidence, the betrayal, the careful orchestration that had played out over weeks. Sophia had already won. She had broken us, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a relationship that no longer existed. Didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the cold reality of betrayal seep into every part of me. My sister had not just interfered, she had destroyed. She had turned the person I loved most into someone I could no longer trust. And yet, beneath the pain, beneath the heartbreak, a spark ignited. A spark I didn't recognize at first. It was anger, yes, but also clarity. If Sophia thought she could destroy me without consequences, she had another thing coming. I started piecing things together, remembering every subtle manipulation, every casual advice, every innocent-seeming smile that had masked a plan. The way she had leaned closer when Ryan was around. The way she had appeared at every moment that mattered. The way she had whispered lies to everyone around us, turning friends and colleagues into instruments of doubt. Everything she had done was deliberate. Everything. And now, I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. Not now. Not ever. The breaking point didn't just shatter my relationship. It awakened a side of me I had never known. I had always been the quiet one, the careful one, the one who avoided conflict. But the betrayal had stripped me of innocence, leaving only a burning need for justice, for control, for payback. I began planning in small, calculated steps. I documented everything: texts, messages, sightings, interactions. I traced every manipulation, every lie, every subtle push she had made. If I was going to take her down, I needed proof. And I needed precision. But even as I mapped it all out, I felt the sting of what I had lost. Ryan, the love of my life, the home we had built in our laughter, in our quiet nights, in our shared dreams. Sophia had stolen more than a relationship. She had stolen my trust, my sense of safety, my certainty that love could be simple. And yet, I refused to let her win completely. I refused to let her walk away, smug and untouchable while I suffered. The fire in me grew, a quiet but unstoppable force, sharpening with every memory of her deceit. I would make her regret every calculated word, every hidden smile, every moment she tried to play the victim while destroying me. I remember the moment clearly, sitting alone in my apartment, surrounded by notes, screenshots, timelines, the weight of betrayal pressing on me, and realizing that I had a choice. I could either crumble, continue to let Sophia dictate my world, or I could fight back. And I decided right then that I would fight. The next step was figuring out how to expose her, how to reclaim what she had stolen, how to make her see that manipulating me came with consequences. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. Sophia was smart, careful, and cunning. She had almost destroyed everything. Almost. The thought that haunted me most that night was this: if I acted too soon, she would evade me. If I hesitated, Ryan might slip completely away. I had to be strategic, precise, and ruthless. And deep down, I knew something else. I would need to be smarter than her, and I would need to embrace a side of myself I had long ignored, the side that refused to be powerless ever again. That night, I made a vow. Sophia had taken from me the most precious thing I had, my love, my trust, my sense of security. But she would not take my dignity, my strength, my ability to fight back. I would rebuild, I would retaliate, and I would make her pay in ways she never imagined. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside me, rain hammering against the windows as if the universe itself knew that something had shifted. I wasn't the same Emily Carter who had fallen in love so blindly. I was someone different now, someone ready, someone dangerous. And that was when I knew. The real battle was about to begin. But what happened next would shock even me, testing every limit of patience, cunning, and courage. The first thing I realized was that Sophia thrived on chaos, on drama, on the idea that she could control everything without consequence. So I needed a plan, calculated, precise, and untraceable. No yelling, no emotional outbursts. If I wanted to win, I had to play a game she couldn't anticipate. I started with information gathering. Every interaction, every social media post, every casual comment became a piece of the puzzle. I observed her routines, her favorite haunts, the people she confided in. Slowly, a picture formed, a pattern of manipulation that could be exploited. The first move was subtle. I began dropping tiny hints to mutual friends and colleagues, planting seeds of doubt about her motives, just as she had done to me, but carefully, invisibly, without drawing attention. The beauty of it was watching her react when her friends began questioning her charm and motives. She was so used to being untouchable that even the smallest ripple in her social pool rattled her. Meanwhile, I reached out to Ryan, not to beg, not to plead, but to rebuild clarity. I showed him the evidence I had been compiling, screenshots, texts, timelines of her manipulation. At first, he hesitated, still under the lingering fog Sophia had created. But seeing the meticulous detail, seeing the patterns clearly laid out, he began to remember the truth. It felt like watching someone wake up from a fog. The confusion, the doubt, the hesitation, all started to clear. Ryan apologized, more than once, for the pain Sophia had caused and for letting her manipulations seep between us. I forgave him, quietly, because right now, our energy had to be focused elsewhere. Sophia had underestimated us. The next phase was strategic exposure. I couldn't confront her directly yet. She was too clever, too manipulative, too practiced in turning situations to her favor. So I began to engineer situations where her lies would collapse under their own weight. One of the first opportunities came when she tried to insert herself into another plan Ryan and I had, a weekend getaway. I accidentally left behind messages she had sent, ones that revealed her motives, in places she assumed no one would see. Friends and acquaintances began noticing inconsistencies in her stories, and whispers started circulating. Every small doubt she had sown in Ryan's mind was now reflected back onto her, amplified and undeniable. I also started keeping meticulous records of her interactions with him, documenting everything from her flirty comments to her manipulative advice. The goal wasn't to attack her emotionally. It was to corner her with evidence she couldn't dispute. Then came the move that changed everything. I invited her to help me with a project, deliberately crafting a scenario where Ryan could witness her duplicity firsthand. I knew she couldn't resist inserting herself into it. The day arrived, and I watched quietly as she leaned, joked, and subtly tried to influence him. But Ryan was no longer blind. His eyes followed every move, and for the first time, I saw hesitation in Sophia's usually flawless performance. And then, the final act. I had arranged for mutual friends to be present, people she thought were oblivious to the tension. I subtly encouraged them to bring up her past manipulations, casual reminders of inconsistencies she had never expected to be confronted with. The room shifted. Sophia's smile faltered. Her voice wavered. She tried to regain control, but the web she had spun for weeks began to unravel before her eyes. Watching her panic, the mask slipping from her face, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and disbelief. This was the sister I had loved and feared, now exposed for what she truly was: manipulative, jealous, and dangerously clever, but no longer untouchable. The revenge wasn't just about winning back Ryan. It was about reclaiming my own life, my trust, my peace of mind. Every subtle humiliation, every small defeat I orchestrated was a message. You do not control me. You never did. And then came the most satisfying moment. Sophia, cornered, tried to argue, tried to twist the situation, tried to gaslight everyone into doubting me. But the evidence was irrefutable. Every lie she had told, every manipulation she had executed, was laid bare. For the first time, she experienced the same helplessness she had inflicted on me. Ryan finally turned to me, eyes clear and steady. I see everything now, Em. I see how smart you've been, how careful. I was blind, but not anymore. The relief was overwhelming. We weren't perfect, and the scars of Sophia's interference would linger, but the worst had passed. She had underestimated me, and I had reclaimed control of my life. I didn't confront her violently. I didn't yell. I didn't stoop to the level of chaos she had thrived on. I used intelligence, patience, and strategy, the very tools she had never expected me to master. And it worked. Every moment of suspense, every plan, every careful move led to this climax, this ultimate revelation. I had won. There was one last piece, the personal satisfaction I had been craving. Seeing the fear in her eyes, the recognition that her power over me was gone. The sister who had manipulated, who had destroyed, who had tried to own my happiness, she was powerless. And as I watched her storm out, her usual charm stripped away, I felt a quiet catharsis, a sense of justice that no words could describe. The damage she had done to Ryan and me could never be entirely undone, but the balance had been restored. She had learned, far too late, that underestimating me was a mistake she would never forget. That night, as I sat with Ryan, holding him close, I realized something crucial. Revenge isn't always about cruelty. It's about restoration, about reclaiming what was yours, about standing tall when someone tried to tear you down. Sophia had tried to steal my life, but I had fought back, and I had won in ways she never could have predicted. The storm of betrayal had passed, but its lessons remained etched into my memory. I knew now that the people we love can sometimes hurt us the most, but that pain can also awaken strength we never knew existed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt free. Free from doubt, free from manipulation, free from the shadow my sister had cast over my life. But even as I celebrated my victory, a small, cautious thought lingered in the back of my mind. Sophia had underestimated me once. What if, somewhere deep, she was already plotting her next move? In the days that followed Sophia's defeat, life felt surreal. The tension that had hung over me for months lifted, but in its place there was a cautious awareness. I had reclaimed Ryan, yes, but more importantly, I had reclaimed myself. The Emily who had cried alone on the couch, broken and unsure, had transformed into someone stronger, sharper, more resilient. Ryan and I spent long nights talking, unpacking everything that had happened, revisiting the manipulations, the lies, the subtle gaslighting that had nearly destroyed us. It was exhausting and painful, but necessary. We rebuilt our trust slowly, piece by piece, with honesty as our foundation. Every confession, every clarification, every shared memory of what had been distorted by Sophia's schemes stitched us closer together. I realized something crucial during those talks. Ryan hadn't been a weak link. He had been a victim, just like me. And just as I had fought to protect our relationship, he had to navigate a labyrinth of deception, unsure whom to trust. Watching him wrestle with the confusion and emerge willing to fight for us was both heartening and humbling. I understood that relationships aren't just about love. They're about commitment, courage, and the determination to stand together even when the world tries to tear you apart. As for Sophia, she disappeared from our lives, but the echoes of her betrayal lingered. There was no dramatic confrontation after the revenge had played out. I didn't need one. Her expressions of shock and panic during the exposure had said everything. She understood, probably better than anyone, the consequences of underestimating someone she had tried to control. I didn't need to watch her fall from grace daily. Her defeat was etched in the memories of those who had witnessed it. I learned that revenge, when executed carefully, isn't about cruelty. It's about balance. Sophia had tried to steal what was mine, to manipulate, deceive, and control, and I had responded not with blind anger, but with strategy, patience, and clarity. That's what made it satisfying. It wasn't messy. It was precise. It wasn't about hurting her. It was about reclaiming what she had tried to destroy. And yet, reflection brought unexpected insights. I realized that life is complicated. People aren't purely good or evil. Even Sophia's actions, terrible as they were, stemmed from her own insecurities, her own twisted sense of entitlement, her desperate need to possess what she could never truly have. That understanding didn't excuse her, but it offered perspective. I felt pity, not just for myself, but for her as well. Pity for a person who had allowed jealousy and obsession to dictate her every move. I also realized the importance of vigilance. Sophia had been clever, patient, and subtle. If I hadn't paid attention, documented everything, and maintained a clear head, I might have lost Ryan entirely. Life had taught me a painful lesson. Love is precious, but it can be fragile, easily eroded by deceit and manipulation. Protecting it requires awareness, courage, and sometimes a willingness to fight in ways we never imagined we could. Miso curled on my lap one evening as I reflected on the events. I ran my fingers through her fur, thinking about how far I had come. I had been broken, yes, but brokenness had led to strength. I had learned to stand my ground, to trust my instincts, and to act decisively when circumstances demanded it. Those lessons, painful as they were, had changed me. Ryan and I began making plans again. Not big, dramatic plans, but small, meaningful ones. Quiet dinners, weekend trips, walks in the park. Each moment felt like reclaiming a part of the life Sophia had tried to steal. And in those moments, I realized something profound. Life doesn't always hand us justice, but when we take control, when we act with clarity and purpose, we can create our own. I also realized that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I didn't need to forgive Sophia fully, and I didn't need to allow her back into my life. Forgiveness, in this case, meant accepting what had happened, learning from it, and moving forward without letting it dictate my future. I let go of the rage, the constant vigilance, the obsession with proving a point. The satisfaction was in knowing I had acted, that I had defended myself and those I loved. That knowledge was enough. Friends and family noticed a change in me. I was quieter, more measured, but also more confident. I had faced betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak, and survived. That survival had given me something invaluable: self-respect. The Emily who had once doubted herself, who had felt powerless in the face of her sister's schemes, had grown into someone unshakable, someone who understood her own worth. And Ryan? He never stopped showing gratitude, not in a dramatic, over-the-top way, but in small, meaningful gestures, a look that said, "I trust you, I see you, I choose you every day." That was more powerful than any apology, more enduring than any declaration of love. Together, we began to rebuild not just a relationship, but a partnership grounded in honesty, respect, and resilience. As for Sophia, I don't know what she's doing now. Part of me hopes she's reflecting, realizing the consequences of obsession and manipulation. But I no longer worry about her. She doesn't hold power over me anymore. I have reclaimed my life, my love, and my peace of mind. Looking back, the experience taught me something invaluable. Life will test you in ways you never expect. People you trust most can betray you, circumstances can seem insurmountable, and the pain can feel endless. But within that struggle lies an opportunity for growth, for strength, and for the realization that you are capable of far more than you imagined. I sometimes think about how different things could have been if I had let anger control me, if I had reacted without strategy, if I had allowed fear to paralyze me. I would have lost everything. Instead, I chose patience, observation, and careful action. And in doing so, I reclaimed not just my relationship, but my sense of self. Revenge, when wielded with intelligence and restraint, isn't about cruelty. It's about reclaiming balance, restoring justice, and proving to yourself that you are stronger than anyone who tries to break you. Sophia may have destroyed moments, lied, manipulated, and hurt, but she could not destroy me. And that is the lesson I carry forward. The world will test you, people will betray you, but if you stay true to yourself, act with clarity, and fight wisely, you can survive, and even thrive, through anything. The storm has passed. Ryan and I sit together in quiet comfort, miso curled between us, and I finally allow myself to breathe. I survived betrayal. I survived heartbreak. And I learned that strength once awakened cannot be taken away. Sophia tried to take everything, but she didn't take me. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled, truly, knowing that I had won in the ways that mattered most.